We're DC Defenders talk. Um, so we've got Champ on, who's a big Defenders fan. He's going to help us break down the last 2 weeks. Then we've got Stuart here, who's gone to the first two home games of the season, including this most recent one. So we'll break that down with him as well. And then we'll also quickly preview the upcoming big game that's also a home game on this Sunday at 7 o'clock. And that I'm very excited about. It's going to be interesting. There's two 3-0 teams playing two 0-3 teams this week. So I thought that was interesting to see how I always enjoy watching how the schedule pans out over time, because they don't really know, what the rivalries are going to be or anything about any of that. But they were kind of hoping that some of these, by scheduling a couple of games, not back to back, but within a couple of games of each other with the same teams, might create some of the rivalries that the original XFL was kind of known for. And so far, especially with this most recent game, I think that they are getting a little bit of what they wanted with that. I'm going to start with you, Stuart, and talk just a little bit about how you decided to become a season ticket holder of this team, and what your thoughts were on the first game of the season, since we're going to cover more of the other two, but just how you thought the season started for them before these most recent two games.
Hey, I decided to get season tickets. As you know, and for those of you who don't know, I take pictures at these games. I love shooting games, and it's so funny. Hockey's my favorite sport to watch. I love taking pictures at the games, but football is my favorite sport to shoot, because so much goes on, not just with the ball carrier, but things going on away from the ball, that I kind of like getting the different aspects of it. And so, yes, as you can see some of my pictures from Sunday. So I figured this would be a chance to kind of get back into it, because I've been boycotting the NFL. A lot of it is because of Mr. Snyder, and of course he was greeted with a lot of lovely cheers at this past Sunday's game, but also just some of the shenanigans that the NFL is doing in terms of covering for Mr. Snyder, as well as some of the other things that it has been doing of late. So I kind of got away from football, haven't watched the games, haven't been watching the Super Bowls as I had used to, but I figured this would be a good time to actually get back into it, check it out, and maybe have some fun enjoying the game. And actually, the pictures you're seeing right now, I must admit, this is my first time not using autofocus. So I was really doing a lot of experimenting. I got some good stuff. I got some stuff that needs some work, if you will. But anyway, long story short, as for the Defenders, my initial impressions are, I love their defense. Greg Williams has them gang tackling the ball carrier. They're forcing turnovers, which is definitely a big part of the game. It's the name of the game. It separates the men from the boys, and a lot of times it will determine who's going to be the champion, who's going to be sitting at home come summer. And I like the fact that they force turnovers, that cornerback Joseph has had 2 pick sixes. He's definitely turned into, I guess you could say, our shutdown corner, although in fairness, the pick 6 from this past weekend was because the wide receiver fell down. But I love the defense. I love the way they get after the ball carrier, and they're definitely making some great plays. Having said that, offense has to protect the ball better. Too many turnovers. There's no reason why we should have had a turnover near the end of the game, as all we were trying to do was run out the clock. We have to protect the ball better. But I think this team's off to a good start. If we can just get the offense a little more in the way of consistent, they are definitely a favorite to be the XFL champion. But again, offense has to work out some things. The play calling has to be a little better as well. Going back to that first game, I didn't like them going for it on 4th down in the opposing team's 40, when they could have just simply tried to pin them deep in their territory and make them go the length of the field. Fortunately, we were able to get a turnover. Once again, turnovers, get a fumble at the goal line and recover it to salt away the victory. But offense has some things we need to work on. But that's kind of my impressions of these first few games.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. You had some great pictures here. Sorry, I was just sharing to a couple of XFL groups because I wanted to see if any of them wanted to talk XFL with us on Facebook as well. But I'm a photographer. That's what I do professionally as well from a school. It's one of many different jobs I do. But so I'm always super into photography. I used to teach a photography class in the high school there as well. So just because I'm a camera head, are you Sony? Are you Nikon? Well, who do you go with?
I am Canon.
Canon. Okay, there you
I'm
go.
Canon, but I use a Tamron lens.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
nice.
That's been my go-to, and it's been a godsend for me over these last 20 some odd years doing this.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I am a Nikon user, but I also does Tamron also make Nikon lenses? I
They
don't know.
do. Yeah, they
Yeah, I
make
think
it for Canon and Tamron.
yeah, I think that's actually who I use as well for my long lens. So but yeah, no, I think you sort of captured the moment, and the running game is such an important part of our team and our identity through the early game, and I like that running style plus hard-nosed defense. It reminds me of the old school Redskins teams, right? That
Yes.
that a lot of the people were such big fans of. And yeah, Chip, what are some of your thoughts on well, why don't you go back a little ways to the Vegas game and give your thoughts on that one?
Right. So that Vegas game was absolutely a very sloppy game for this team. In not only the offensive play, but the conditions. It was raining, it was wet, it was slipping. There was even a point in the game where on the kickoff, the kicker slipped and it barely got past the 20, which was a penalty in the XFL. It didn't get past the 20, so it was a penalty in the XFL. But the crazy part about that Vegas game was the first half, the offense was terrible. They had 6 offensive possessions, and half of those possessions ended in a turnover, a fumble, and the other 3 were punts. So the offense was terrible the first half. So clearly, Coach Barlow went in that locker room and made some adjustments, and they went right to ground and pound. They went to the ground, they ran the ball, ran, and that's where their successes started to come offensively, was keeping the ball on the ground and running. All their touchdowns came on the ground. They were able to just grind out that defense, wear out that defense, and were able to come back and get the victory. So they were able to adjust, knowing that the weather conditions were not conducive to passing the football. They knew that they had to run the football in order to be successful, and that's what they were able to do, not only with their running backs but their quarterbacks as well. So that's what was the key there. But I hate the fact that it took for them to do it in the second 30 minutes of this game and not the entire game. And because if they had done it the entire game, I think this would have been a much bigger blowout than it was. They ended up scoring 18 unanswered points, but it took them the final 30 minutes of the game to get that 18 points instead of being able to do it in the first half. So I think that's where they got to figure out their offensive identity. They have 2 mobile quarterbacks, and they're using them as mobile quarterbacks, using RPOs and stuff like that. But they really need to gain a true identity of who they are offensively and what they can do offensively, because their defense is solid. Their defense is absolutely solid, but their offense is like Stewart said earlier on, they're too inconsistent when it comes to their offense. They have to gain some consistency and just develop themselves in order to be able to be in game, because they know their defense is going to keep them in games, but the offense has got to be able to push them forward. There's an old saying, offense gets the glory, but defense wins championships. And if that were to apply to this team, you're looking at the XFL champions right now. But that theory doesn't apply onto the field. That theory isn't played on the field. Plays are made on the field. And so offense has to be able to not only get the glory, but also get the points so that the defense can do its job and they can win championships.
Yeah. For some reason you're flickering your video, so let me see. Yeah, there it goes. I was going to try to help you.
You know what, Robbie? I've noticed something that it only seems to happen on Zoom. Everywhere else where I use video, it doesn't happen, but on Zoom, this happens. I don't know what's going on.
And it's happening to Gil earlier too. So there's definitely something wrong with the Zoom software. But anyway, we may do with what we got. But all we have to do is reset the camera, and it seems to work for at least a little bit. So anyway, I'm gonna get Stuart. I want to get your thoughts on that road game real quickly. I'm gonna actually turn on a screen in my man cave while you give your thoughts.
Okay. Well, I just pretty much want to piggyback on what Champ had said earlier. It is true that, first of all, I think they need to stick with the running game more. It seems like when they pound the ball, they have their most success. Also, they got to protect the ball better. Too many turnovers, too many sloppy plays. You alluded to it earlier. They were very sloppy the first half. Now, you could say a lot of it was the weather, and the conditions weren't exactly the best in the world, especially when it comes to the field. I know you heard about that, but I actually saw it in the third game as well. It seems like they get away from the running game too quickly because they're not patient. They want to pass more. And also, maybe I'm just a purist in this, but I wish we'd settle on one quarterback and stick with said quarterback. I don't like the platooning idea.
Yeah, I do not love the idea.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either. You need to have one quarterback and let that individual be the quarterback. This whole mixing and matching quarterbacks doesn't work for me.
They claim that it works because they have respect for each other, but I just feel like that's a PR stunt. But I don't know, like, because like they have to say that kind of thing. Like, I don't know.
I mean, yes, they're 3-0, but to me, you need one person there, because when you're flipping and flopping and changing guys in and out, teams are going to look at film and they're going to realize, okay, if they bring this guy in, most likely they're going to do this. And then you have to watch out for this.
Unless you play against that tendency, right? Unless maybe they could use that to your advantage. I don't know. I mean, as long as they're winning, it's hard for me to be like they need to change it up. I agree on principle. I don't like the idea of it, but until they lose a game, it's hard for me to be like they need to change it too. So I guess I'm conflicted on that.
It's like this. They're 3-0, yes, but there's just something about it I don't trust. Champ, you said it earlier. Defense is solid. Defense is there. Greg Williams has them playing. Offense has to be better. It's playing okay, but I haven't been blown away by the offense. They've had some good plays here and there, but a consistent effort where they have an identity, like you said, Champ, that to me will tell me whether or not this team's arrived. And I really will be interested to see what happens this Sunday when they play a winless team. Of course, Vegas is going to want to come back and beat us on our home field. I want to make sure that I want to see what they look like against a winless team. Are they going to be a little too high on themselves? Can they bring the same intensity? And can they clean up these turnovers?
Right. And can they just crush a team, right? Like, could they, like, if it's a winless team and they know they're better, can they, as Champ always talks about, stomp the foot on the neck, like really, don't let them, come back into it. And, because I agree. Sometimes these wounded animals, so to speak, these teams that have 0 wins, those could be some of the most dangerous teams, right? Because they want it more, that hunger. They don't have to manufacture it. They're craving a win. But if you can early on really dominate a game, you could take the wind out of their sails, and then it can sort of like crush them through the rest of the game. But I think it's important to start off strong, but also continuously not let that foot off the pedal. And I feel like a lot of first half, the defense has been letting them down and the offense is doing okay. And then, then it sort of, shifts a little bit. So I want both sides of the ball to be playing well consistently throughout the game. I think that, there have been times where the offense has led the team. There's been times in the defense, but, the defense has kind of been porous at times in these first halves, right? And so you just have to be careful, about that. You don't want to give this team too much momentum. One thing I wanted to also talk about was one thing I did not realize with the XFL. They're all based in Texas. They all go back to Texas after every game. That's where they practice. That's where they live. That's where they live their lives. And then they fly to these host cities. Like, I was under the assumption, like most sports, that the DC team lives in DC. right? Because all the other ones do. I've never heard of this before. And I found out that they often can share flights with the other team.
Wow.
So talk about when the Battlehawks game happens in a couple of weeks.
Well, you saw my first picture there.
Right. Yes. So, I do want to get into a little bit of this most recent game, because Stuart, you were there, and just first of all, I'm happy the beer snake was back. We reported that was missing in the first game. We're supposed to not throw things as a contingency of that, which kind of fell apart at the end there. So I'm interested to see if they're going to continue this or for how much longer. But the beer snake was great. The crowd was very rowdy. How drunk was the crowd to be able to beer snake that much? Did you have a sense of the inebriation levels of it? Because the memes online seem to think that everyone must have been pretty wasted to get there. How did it feel to be in that environment? Were people friendly? Were they drunk? How would you characterize the environment on yesterday's game?
My section was pretty good. Now I was the beneficiary of a beer shower in the opening game, which I did not like, but it seemed like they were a little more calmer this second one. I loved the F Dan Snyder chants. Oh my God, the entire stadium saying that for 10, 15 minutes. That was just amazing.
That's pretty amazing. And the game itself, it was up and down game. We started off up 14. They tie it going into halftime. We score on that first opening drive, but then they had that big return and it sets them up with a touchdown. We are able to stop their extra point. Again, in the XFL, you go for 1, 2, or 3, depending on distance. There's no kicking for extra points. I believe they tried for 2 and failed. So they ended up going for, up 3. We drove down. We scored again. We go up by a considerable margin. But then the Battlehawks have done this. In the first week, they're the first team to make a 4th and 15 to retain possession instead of the onside kick. They went and marched down and won that game. And they've been kind of a comeback team, especially on the road. They've had all their games on the road so far. And it sort of started to unravel. You talked about the interception that happened. And then, so it set us up well, except for on the 1 yard line. Then we fumble the ball and then they're right back in it and then they score. And then they try this 4th and 15 again. And I'm going to share the screen one more time. And this is sort of when all of this happens, just crazy commotion. So also, I want to hold on. Let me see if I can pull up the video real quickly because a friend of the podcast shot this amazing video, and I actually posted it on the page. Here we go.
Oh yeah, I saw this. Hey, they're there in the yellow jersey way in the back. The little dot there, the little yellow dot's me.
Oh wow! On the other side.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Because I'm right on the 30.
So yeah. So basically, here is the 4th and 15. It was a really good stop. There's a sack. And then, of course, the DC player pulls off his helmet in excitement, which you can't do. And the other team was not very happy about that. And they start some shoving. There's some flags. And it's kind of an ugly ending to like a pretty good game. I mean, I like it because I like hockey fights, but whatever. But just in general, it'll be interesting to see how this ultimately plays out. Coaches had to go grab their players and pull them aside. The Battlehawks coach did not like what was going on. So it's just some chippiness. It was kind of building to this for some time in the game, and especially with how close of an ending it was. So they ultimately the clock runs out, and that's kind of the end of the game. It's what was sort of your thoughts on that ending, Stuart?
I think a lot of that started. Well, it did start because they thought that they threw the quarterback down a little too hard. So the frustration set in. They hit, we hit back, and then things just kind of escalated. because I thought it was kind of funny. What you don't see in the video is that, yeah, you've got guys take off their helmets and celebrating, but you also have the group going into that rumble there throwing punches. So I thought the juxtaposition of the celebrating and trying to get the crowd up versus the team fighting their team was interesting, was funny to see.
Arun's actually in our Twitch chat, who might be joining us in just a second, and he's saying Shields up, undefeated with 2 quarterbacks though, fear the snake. So we're doing well with the beer snake, and so yeah, I'm kind of of the mindset we don't change much until we lose a game,
Fix that special teams though.
Yeah.
Fix that special teams. They gave up 2 long returns. I forgot to mention that.
Right,
Actually,
but on the flip side, special teams though, that I guess the people who need to tackle need to be fixed, but the kicker, holy moly, we've got some punters in DC, and it was nice to see some of that. Champ, what are some of your thoughts on the game yesterday?
Right. So this game right here, the offense actually finally showed up. Okay. They actually showed up, and they were slightly more balanced in this game than they were in the Vegas game. But I guess you had much better weather conditions. I mean, it was sunny and like in the mid to upper 50s. The defenders as a team had 342 total yards in terms of offense. Passing was fairly much better. It was 206 yards passing. Rushing yards, it was 136 rushing yards. I think one of my favorite plays was the 2-point conversion play after they score, where the tight end on a nice little short tight end seam caught the ball, took a shot, and still managed to hold on to the ball to convert the 2-point try. So that was a really good play there. And once again, defensively, this team was solid. It wasn't perfect because they did give up a lot of points. This was a very high-scoring game, which a lot of people expect from the XFL as a high-scoring game. But then when you play the defenders, it's not really high-scoring. But this was a high-scoring game. It's just that for once, the defenders scored more than their opponents. So it was a really, really good, really fun game to watch, actually. That ending, though, kind of was like, wow. Like, it just, you could tell that, especially the Battlehawks were getting very, very frustrated. They had 4 turnovers on the day to the defenders 3, and they were frustrated. They were just tired. They were just done with it. And so because of that, that's what we have there. And unfortunately, 3 players got ejected, 1 from the defenders and 2 from the Battlehawks. So, but all in all, this was a really fun game to watch. This is probably one of the funnest games I've watched in the first 3 games of this team season. And there's still 7 more games to go. And I'm pretty sure they're going to, once, as we said, when we talked about the Vegas game, once they get an offensive identity, then we're going to see a lot more fun from this team. And they're going to really, really start to soar. But this was really that launching point, at least on the offensive side, to say, look, y'all can do good offensively. Defensively, you're fine. Offensively, you just got to start to just push forward. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I see. Cut out the fumbles. Cut out the fumbles, please.
Yeah, they did have 3 of them in this game. Holy crap.
Too many.
Yeah, a lot of turnovers, but I just love the product. I talk about it a little bit the first week, but I just want to talk about it here. I love how many things are mic'd up. I know, Stuart, you don't see it from that point of view, so I'll speak to just the home point of view for a second, but everyone's mic'd, including all the people doing the reviewing, the officials, the line. I mean, they have to mute some things because all these games are being put on FX as well as on other ESPN channels. I forgot that FX is owned by ESPN now, but that deal now Disney owns Fox. Brilliant use of that network and all of the tools that they can have. And then the league uses the same video feed. So there is an advantage of the league being part of the broadcast with the broadcast, sponsor, where it's all uniform. It's not like there's different teams with different franchises, right? Everything is kind of this uniform thing that I really enjoy a lot. I love hearing the replay booth and what they're talking about, what they're looking for. And I love hearing the coaches make the calls, and all of it. I think it's really a great transparent look into the game of football, something that I think is really missing from the NFL game. And so I'm willing to be okay with a couple of turnovers, or maybe the play isn't quite at the same level as the NFL, because the rivalries are starting to be there and the passion is there. And what I love is if you talk to the players, they're all just super excited to be there. They are excited for an opportunity to have their game put on tape so that way maybe an NFL team picks them up in the summer. And I think that this really, I really enjoy the product, and I hope that it continues to be able to grow. I kind of like this better than the other league. I know there's kind of this rivalry between the two alternative football leagues, as we can call them. I really like what the XFL is doing. I'm biased, obviously, because we have a team, but also biased because our team is doing well. But we, taking all that into consideration, I can still think the presentation of the game, in some ways, is better than some of the NFL presentation, and I think that that's great. And from what it sounds like, it's really fun to go to a game. I have two little kids, so I haven't been able to make it to a game yet, but it's definitely something I would love to do, if not this season, in future seasons. But is it a family-friendly environment? Are children there? No, it's not.
There are children there, but it is kind of the one thing that kind of drove me away from NFL games. I don't like a lot of profanity. That's just who I am. And maybe I'm just a little more sensitive to it than others, but the F. Dan Snyder, that was happening. I can understand. But then there were like, break their effing legs. Then a couple of other guys around me had a vulgar name for the Battle Hawks, which I won't repeat. And I'm kind of like, all right, come on. I don't need to hear all that. So
yeah, that's
I
fair.
wouldn't call it family friendly.
Yeah. This is a
I was
good
about to say, like, if they're chanting F. Dan Snyder, I doubt that's family friendly, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, exactly. But it's good to have, eyes on the ground, and especially throughout this season, we can have you come back on and give your take on some of these other games. And we can have you come and join our Caps talk as well. This has been a lot of fun, Stuart. I want to be mindful of your time. I'm going to bring in Arun in a second to help us preview the next game. Any final thoughts you have on the game this upcoming week, or anything else you want to share with us before we let you go?
Just want to say, if we can shore up those turnovers, cut down on those turnovers, and find that identity, as Champ mentioned, I think this is going to be the team to beat. Defense is there. Offense got to be a little more consistent.
Yeah, I got to share with you a picture. Hold on, before you go. Hold on. Can I pull this up? Because Arun just gave it into our group chat. Let me see if I can pull this up, because this is really funny. All right, here we go. I love technology, how I can instantly share this. Thank you, Arun.
You gotta send that to me, dude. You gotta send that to me.
Yeah, I think it's in our group chat from tonight. No, it's not. It's in our other group chat. I will forward that to our group chat right now. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So there you go. It's sent to the whole group. I'll stop that share now. But I thought that you would appreciate that before I let you go, since you love photography and funny things. But Stuart, thanks again. I really appreciate it. We'll have to have you on a future episode to break down little Capitals and XFL action. Maybe one of the episodes in April, we can have you back on.
Anytime. I'd love to do it.
All right, sounds good. Have a great night, and thanks again. And I really appreciate it, as always. And we'll bring in Arun now as well, and we'll talk to you soon, Stuart. All right, Arun. See which meme we have tonight. Oh, we got the dog. We're bringing Champ back. Arun, I want to just get your quick take on the previous two games, and then we'll talk about the upcoming game.
Yeah, it's good that the defenders. I guess the last game was pretty good. They forced like a defensive touchdown in the first half. They only had 14 points, but then they got it really going in the second half. And that fight to close the game was kind of funny, even though I guess people were hurt. But it was kind of random that the St. Louis was trying to they're trying to like the Tampa Bay Buccaneer strategy from back in the day of trying to like rush the offensive line when the game was clearly over, and they're just kneeling out the clock. And it's even funnier that you mentioned that they all live in Texas together and might be taking the same flight back. So it's like kind of random that they were just fighting. But I guess both the teams are undefeated, and it's good to stir up a good rivalry. I guess Vince McMahon's no longer the owner of the XFL, but The Rock is trying to continue on that WWE spirit, and hopefully maybe there's a good fight in the next game too.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, Arun, what are some of the things that you have to you're looking towards to try to beat a team that is winless?
I guess it's another game at home. I think this Sunday, and yeah, I think the crowd should get them into the game. But I don't know. The offense still looks a little bit sloppy at times, but if they can get the passing game going, I guess I'd like to stick to one quarterback. I agree, but if they're going, since nobody's won the job, you might as well stick to two, and especially if it's still working. And I think maybe because both of them are running quarterbacks, maybe just like running the ball, and I guess it's like a multiple running back situation. But I think the defense needs to pretty much seal the deal for the defenders, and I hopefully the crowd can get them going again with the great home field.
Yeah. Cam, I'm sorry that our Zoom is not working out for you. I feel horrible. I just wish that it's something I knew how to fix a setting or something, but I appreciate you working through it with me. Champ, what are some of your thoughts about this upcoming game?
All right, so I mean, this team knows exactly what Vegas is capable of. I mean, but again, they figured that they dealt with Vegas with very, very poor conditions in terms of rain and things like that. So that's something they're gonna have to see what they're all about when the conditions are a lot better. Because I don't expect for there to be rain this weekend for here in DC. So they're gonna have to figure it out. And they've already shown what they can do offensively against St. Louis. So they just got to replicate that. That's all they got to do. They just got to replicate what they did against St. Louis in order to beat this team that has yet to win a single game yet so far. So that's all they got to do. They just got to replicate what they did to St. Louis, replicate that. They'll be fine because defensively, they're rock solid. Greg Williams has this unit playing absolutely amazing, but yet they need to be able to put it all together as a complete team. And that's what they need to do.
Yeah. I hope that they can and go to 4-0, and I hope that they win it all this year. I mean, they have all the tools that they need. If they keep on growing and building every week, I think that they could be a force to be reckoned with, because I think we've always talked about it starting with, focusing on the defense and the running game is a recipe for success. The passing game can come because they can still make some of the plays, and that can obviously, we've seen many teams win without like a crazy passing game, especially early on. And I'm excited about it. Overall, Rue, what are your thoughts on the XFL?
It's pretty good. I guess like as far as the defenders stand, their offense is still a little bit far behind, but I guess like it's funny that they're more out in front with the gambling on their broadcast. Like in the previous game, the defenders played Vegas like 2 weeks ago, or it was 18-6, but the defenders were actually underdogs in that game. So like, if you're actually like kind of following this league, maybe you could be like, oh, the defenders are much better. And the over under was like 36 points for last game against St. Louis, and the defenders by themselves, I think, like had more points than the expected over under, which is kind of funny. And then so it's kind of, and all the behind the scenes stuff is pretty cool. Especially the sideline interviews after the TDs. They interview the players about the play, and they have the play calling of the coach. So it's all good, but I think the offense, at least as far as the defenders, the offense is definitely way behind the NFL. So as far as watchability, I hopefully the defenders can get their offense fixed, especially the quarterback play.
Yeah. I just want to say good night to Carly in chat. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in on Twitch. We've had a very lively crew tonight, so I appreciate it. Swatters watching the Raptors game with us. And I got Andy in chat and lots of other great people in chat. So I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. I also want to give a special shout out to Bat Mommy, who earlier not only resubscribed, she's one of our founders, but also gifted a subscription to our community as well. So I really appreciate all the love and support. I know she may have gone to bed already, but Champ, hopefully you can let her know that I appreciate it as well. Yeah, it's been a fun show so far. I really love Stuart's insight, being a season ticket holder, and I look forward to bringing him back sometime in April, when maybe we can do another full XFL roundtable. Champ, any final thoughts you have on what we're seeing so far in the XFL before we switch over to a little bit of basketball talk?
Yeah, I mean, I really love the unique rule set that they have for the XFL. I really like the insight we get to have in terms of hearing play calling on both the offensive and defensive side, get to understand the concepts that they're using on offense. I also love that when there's a penalty, you can hear the referees tell you what the penalty is before they tell the live audience like what the penalty is, and you get to see Dean Blandino in the command center reviews things and stuff like that. I really like that sort of like behind the scenes type of vibe that you get from there, because you get to understand the game, you get to understand what's going on. I like the fact that offensive coordinators or whoever the play caller is can call in and talk to the quarterback all the way up until the ball is snapped. So, I mean, that really gives them a chance to really adjust and understand what's going on and be able to make adjustments. And so I think it's really unique and it's really fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm really enjoying the product that we're seeing come from this, and yeah, it's I don't know, it's been fun to watch it sort of develop, if you will. Like I feel like week to week, you're seeing a little bit of a different thing, and yeah, I don't know, I just think that there's some really cool opportunities here for this league, and hopefully it continues to grow and thrive. So far the Capitals have 1 shot on goal, the Kings have 3 shots on goal, and we're just approaching about 5 minutes in to the first period. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an update on that. I think with that, I think we've talked about the defenders enough. We're going to switch over to our Wizards talk. And I'm going to share my screen and do a couple of things real quickly for that. Let me see here. There's the Wizards logo. All right.